My name is Lisa Nissley. I graduated from UMBC in 2001. I was a political science major, and I currently work at the Maryland Department of the Environment. I've been in state government my whole career, first with the legislature and then working with the legislature from the agency side. We need a lot of involvement for a strong democracy. We need a lot of good information for a good democracy. And we need leaders who are more concerned about the outcomes for the people than they are for themselves. My very first memory of being civically engaged was when in my neighborhood they were considering building an incinerator, and it would have had a smokestack very close to a child's bedroom window. So my mother and my aunt took me to this really large public meeting. It seemed large to me, at least, as a small kid, in the cafeteria of my school, in elementary school. And I remember it being hot and so many people and noisy. But the whole point was that people were concerned about this and had come together to show their concern for the public health of, not just this one child, but this whole community. And the incinerator was, in fact, not built there in the end as a result. It was built in a more industrial area. I became involved in political campaigns pretty early. I was about 12 when I expressed interest, and my mom was in touch with a local senator who took us all down to Annapolis to volunteer at the Democratic headquarters in Annapolis. She was really a wonderful woman who did a lot for our family in terms of keeping engaged with me and sending me little materials and information, as long as she was a senator. I then was a page in Annapolis when I was in high school and got to meet just a lot of people who I still see in my political life and my career at this point. So I would say a lot of those people that I sort of got to meet as I was sort of forming my ideas and how I wanted to be involved in politics and government were great mentors. And then, of course, the woman that I worked for the longest, Senator Paula Hollinger. I interned for Senator Paula Hollinger while I was a student at UMBC. Dr. Schaller was my advisor. And she was just a wonderful person. It is a wonderful person, but also just seeing how she operated. She was a woman who came up at a time when women weren't always involved in politics. Her mother became involved in politics and sort of inspired her. And she just had a really great attitude about how we got work done. She recognized other people's strengths and wanted to help them develop. She would sit down with people, whether she agreed or disagreed with them, and really use that to form her own bills and ideas and involvement. And I always look back to those times and her and those ideas when I'm doing my own work now. Professionally, most of my work has been around the environment, but specifically within the environment, public health, and community engagement. I've done a lot of work on environmental justice issues and climate change. Personally, I'm very interested in family and women's issues, reproductive right issues as well. Well, it's my job to convince people to care about issues that they may not care about or may not be aware of how they're impacting their community. So when I'm in Annapolis lobbying to the legislature, for example, I have to look at what it is about an issue I'm working on that may be of interest to them and their constituents. And I think it's the same tactic, right? So the environment seems like this big, huge issue. Climate change is overwhelming. But if you begin to talk about in a particular neighborhood some of the effects, such as flood levels or how that's impacting mold in the home or any number of things that are affecting personal health, then you've really brought it down to this big issue to this smaller issue and how that affects a person or a community that someone cares about. In terms of acting on issues that I care about, there's a whole gamut of ways you can impact them. When I work for a state agency, we're often organizing public meetings with lots of different stakeholders with opposing views. So sometimes really getting to the table with a bunch of people seems much different to someone than hearing about this business that wants to do this and in their mind affect them negatively. So bringing people together, I think, is one of the most important things you can do because you can work through issues much easier. I also think having good information that people can grasp and understand immediately. I work with a lot of scientists, and sometimes they'll give me really dense material, and I have to pick out what the average person that I'm handing something to read quickly can take and use for their own information. There's lots of ways for college students to be involved. I would say internships are a great way to be involved with things. I love having interns. Some people think it's a lot of work. I think it's really cool to figure out what a person is good at and how they might be attracted and interested in different processes around civic engagement. But also there are even simpler ways, volunteering for a nonprofit that shares your point of view, volunteering for a political organization or a candidate. And you can do those things lightly. You don't have to jump all in. You can go to an event and see what it's all about and see who you like and who you're attracted to and see how you might be able to be involved in their organization. To enter this field of politics, campaigns, government, I think if you can have a point of view, but be very open to learning. I learned early on I was never going to, immediately know as much as the people around me on a particular issue, but that if I understood the process very well, I could learn and make a contribution. Anything you can do to be involved and just kind of be open to new experiences, I think primes you to do well in this field. I think if you're graduating with a political science degree from UMBC today, that I really hope, I know what UMBC students are like. They're really engaged, they're really thoughtful, they're very smart, and I hope that they hit the ground running and get involved and make a big difference because there's a lot of work to be done, and I just really believe in them and that they can help make that impact. My advice for recent UMBC graduates who are looking to get into the political field is to just network and get to know people and build relationships. The person you meet at an event today, you might still know 20 years later. And when you're then involved in the work of policymaking or implementation or campaigns, you guys are already going to be connected and be able to make a bigger difference quickly because of that relationship. So building relationships is really important in this field.